Welcome back, first and second graders. I am really excited to continue working on our Andy Warhol pop art inspired projects. So we're going to be finishing off what we started last week. I'm going to let you know the supplies that you're going to need. You're going to need your 2 sheets of painted grass background paper. This one I've already done the way that it's going to look finished. This one we'll be working on together, but you should have 2 of them. And then you're going to need your painting with the 4 different rectangles that we painted in with our bright colors and that we kind of repeated diagonally. And you will need this with the following supplies. You're going, for this project, we are going to be using our oil pastels. You should have oil pastels left over from previous projects, so keep those or go and find those. Need then for this project the colored paper that I sent home this week. So there'll be a bunch of different colors. If you have different colored paper at your house that you would prefer to use, that's fine. You can use what I supplied, or you can use construction paper from your house. You will want those flowers that we cut out last week. Remember how we cut these out and then we traced them onto our paintings? If you still have those, you're going to want to have these with, because we'll be tracing these on our colored paper so that you can cut out some more paper for our collage. The other thing that you will need for our paper collages is some sort of glue stick. So you can use a glue stick. I also have like this Craft Bond, whatever, or Elmer's glue, whatever you have at your house, any of these would work. This will be pretty, if you have the extreme, it will work on top of the paint. Otherwise, like a Craft Bond would work. Or your Elmer's, you can just put that on a lid and you can dip your fingers, or you can use like a Q-tip to dip it and to spread it. So those are the supplies that you will need. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start by working on our painting project first. So I'm going to set aside our collage. And I'm going to remove our papers, my extra papers. For this one, you're primarily going to need a black, a couple of greens, if you have a dark or a light green. And then you're going to want some of the colors that are already in the picture. So you can see with these, I did just a pink color outline, and this one I did the orange and this one I did the red, so they're in reverse. We used the black to outline it and do it in the center, and then I just put black lines in with some of the green for the grass. Let me show you kind of how to get started. First thing you want to do is kind of find the center of your flower and put some basic lines in. I'm going to go with my orange. I did want to mention too, if you have a kind of a medium orange, and I'm going to pull out a yellow as well to work with. I'm going to go in and outline my petals. This is very similar to the different flowers we saw by Andy Warhol. I'm going to go also in with my yellow. Some of the flowers pictures that Andy Warhol did that we looked at had actual oil pastel outlines. And then I'll go around with the black on the very outside edges. Sometimes it's nice to outline the lighter ones, the lighter colored flowers with the darker color. So I'm doing the yellow with the orange. And I have another darker orange, and I'll do that one on this one. And this we're just really giving a little extra detail. think I'm going to do a double line on this one with that medium. Then we'll go ahead and put our lines in the center. What is nice about Andy Warhol's images, his flowers were very simplified and kind of clean lines. They had some overlapping of color. They would have been printed. Parts of them would have been printed and silk screened. So with this dark green background, so on my light green I used the dark green. On this dark I'm going to use the light. I'm going to use my oil pastel on its side and just put some lines in. Not a lot. It's very subtle. That means that it doesn't stand out very much. Then I'm going to take my black and I'm just going to put some lines in for the grass, like that. We're going to pretty much leave that alone. And I'm going to go down to my next corner and I will repeat the same process in here, and then in this one I will use the change up my colors and repeat what I did here. Now that we have added details to each of our 4 flower paintings, and we're really getting that effect of this repetition of color and patterns, and you're getting a feel of what the pop art was like, where they took ordinary objects and made them stand out and made people notice them in a way that they might not have because they just take them for granted. I think the last thing I want to do is add a little bit of a center in a couple of mine. I think that really made it pop. You can choose to do that. You can use a white, a light pink, or possibly a really pale yellow, depending on the color. And you can go ahead and add just maybe a little highlight in ones that you think might look better with it. So I've done it in all of these. I think I will leave these blank. That makes these a little bit different and they stand out a little differently than these. So there you have it. The last thing you need to do for this part of our project is put your name in the corner. I started with my oil pastel, but I've decided I'm going to switch to a Sharpie. And there you have it. first part of pop art ready to hang up. This time we're still going to use some of our oil pastels, but we're going to try and create our flowers out of collage. Collage is when we layer paper together to create patterns and designs. I want you to choose for yourself from the papers I gave you, maybe 2 colors. 2, 3 at most. Because I already did purple and orange, for the second one, I think I'm going to do my teal-y paper and my yellow. So what you're going to want to do before you get started, you can see that my hands have all of these oil pastels. This is already marked up my yellow paper. So you're going to want to either wipe your hands on some paper towel. This is my art paper towel that I use for my watercolor painting. So I'm just going to wipe those off. It's especially the black, which will leave marks on your paper, which you probably don't want to have your flowers dirty. So I'm going to show you a little trick. I'm going to actually flip this over. We'll do these together. You can see I got it dirty there already. I'm going to take, I have 3 different sizes of flowers that I cut out. If you still don't have yours, you can go ahead and redraw your flowers. You could just do that directly on the paper. Or if you want to have time to practice, you can go ahead and get some scrap white paper, just some printer paper, and just make some more flowers, because I know that you are very capable of doing that because we've done that already. So I'm going to trace all 3 sizes of my flowers. When I cut them out, that means that I will have 3 different sizes to choose from. I'm going to show you a little trick. If this is too difficult, you can do 1 flower at a time. But to use my time well, you can see I've got my 3 flowers. I've got 2 sheets of paper. I am going to, first I'm going to cut the paper into a smaller sheet, and I'm going to cut both the yellow and the blue at the same time. I'm holding them together. And I am just going to cut by my 2 small ones. I'm going to separate and cut between the 2 again. Let that fall. So I'm going to cut out my small flower first. I'm still holding the sheets together. Like I said again, if this is too hard, cut out the one and trace it again on the second sheet of paper. You can do it either way, it doesn't matter. Learning how to cut out curved shapes can sometimes be challenging. So working on your scissor skills so you feel comfortable with them is always good practice. So now I have 2 flowers and I only cut out 1, which is handy. I'm going to put my small scraps to the side, and I will cut out my medium flower next. Once again, if that's too challenging, I want you to feel free to cut them out 1 at a time. I'm going to cut off the really skinny parts, but I'm going to save this bigger section because we'll still use this later. Because I want this project to have more blue than yellow, I'm going to take my blue paper, which I traced out my biggest flower. I'm only going to use my blue paper, and I'm going to cut out just 1 of these. I will do the same thing. I'll cut off the small pieces but save the big piece for later. Now I have 5 flowers. This is an uneven number of flowers. We want to stick with uneven numbers. They tend to make better visual pieces of art. So you could do, if your flowers are bigger, you could just do 3 of them. But if you have them about the same size that mine are, then do 5. I want you to arrange these in a way that divides up the size of the flowers a little bit and spreads out the color. You can see in this one I have a similar layout in that I have the 2 orange separated by the same color purple ones. I have that same idea here with the blue. So we are going to take our glue. I would recommend using your Elmer's glue. I'm going to use my craft bond. The Elmer's would be just fine for this. Or if you have an extreme glue stick. If you just have the regular glue sticks, you probably want to stick with the Elmer's. So I'm just going to add a small amount of glue. We don't want the glue squeezing out the edges, so you don't need to add too much. If you're using the Elmer's, you can use it with the tip if you like, or you can put some of the Elmer's on a plastic lid and use your finger or a Q-tip to spread the glue out onto your flowers. And we're just going to press this down. If you use the Elmer's glue, you might want to get a thick, heavy book and put it on top of this painting and let it dry and come back to this video tomorrow. You can pause it or come back to it tomorrow. If you've used the extreme glue stick or a faster drying glue, you can continue working. What we want to do next is we're going to use the blue and yellow paper, and we're going to be cutting out circles and strips, whatever you want to do. You can experiment with different shapes to put in centers for our flowers, but mostly you're going to, whatever the color of the flower is on the outside, the first circle that you put in will be the opposite color. So for my blue, I will need to have 3 yellow circles. I'm taking the scrap paper that I had. I'm cutting a big circle. This is a very uneven circle. That is just fine. We aren't worried about anything being perfect. So I'm going to cut out a medium, and I will do one more. This one will be my smallest circle because it's for my smaller flower. Next, we need to have the insides for our yellow flowers. I'm going to do one with a really big circle. I guess I will put it in the slightly bigger. It's actually more like an oval or egg shape. So you can see none of these are perfect circles. They're kind of organic, and we don't mind that. When I did this purple one, I used some lines. I cut those out of my scraps. So I'm going to do a couple of those and see how I like it. I think before I mess with those, let's glue our centers in. Now we're back to some of the lines that I cut out. I think I will cut some yellow, some large yellow polka dots, maybe 3 of them, to do on the inside of my bigger yellow flower. So you can see the layering that we've done for the collage for our Andy Warhol inspired paper collage flowers. The last thing that we want to do is basically what we did in our big painting. So the way we outlined this and put a center in it, we're going to be doing that with the same colors that are here. I used purple and orange in this one because those were the colors that I have. I am going to go ahead and pick out some blue and yellow oil pastels for this. So you can see when I do the yellow on top of the yellow, you cannot see it, or you barely can. But that just gives it a soft little outline, which I think I like, so I'm going to do that. It has a little bit of black because that was what was left over on the, and there we have that. I will also be using my light blue. And I'll be going around and putting fine lines around this one. Each one can be a little different. I would say just be careful, and you don't have to do too much. It doesn't need a lot of extra, just a little bit. In these, I'm just going to put some lines coming out from the center, and that's all the blue I will do on that. It has a slightly daffodil-like quality that I'm liking. For the yellow to show up on the blue, you can see we're doing a little color mixing because the yellow is a lot darker with the blue underneath and has a slight appearance of wanting to go a bit green. It's a little hard to see in that light. You can also try using your white. I'm going to outline this blue with white. But I think I like that, so I'll leave that. I'm going to do, oh, my glue is still drying, so I've got a yellow center. I'm going to press a little white there. So there we have it. I'm just going to put a little bit of a white outline. I hope that you have a lot of fun working on your 2 different pop art inspired flower projects. The last thing you want to do for this one is to put your name. This one I am going to do with my oil pastel, even though it's hard to read. This is J, because the white shows up on the black and your other colors won't very well. One other thing, I don't want to add black to this was dark and I added black because the purple's so dark, but I don't really want to add any black to this because I like how it looks. But you can, the last thing that I forgot to mention is you can take a green and you can add just a little extra green lines to make some of them stand out, and they'll have a little bit of different texture if you feel like that helps your project look well. I did this with the light. I'm going to try and see what a little dark would look like. I hope you enjoyed your two projects. I look forward to seeing both your painting, pastel, and your paper collage. Post them on Seesaw and let me see how they're doing. Have a lot of fun making this project, and I look forward to seeing your work.